chemical and perceptive pollution of water, air, and soil, and also inside perceptive pollution, also sound pollution, acoustic pollution. Transformation of regional habitats, and finally loss of biodiversity, that is a sort of DNA of our world. And if there are less biodiversity, this means that we have less tools in our room to do bricolage. It's a sort of metaphor, and when we have a loss of biodiversity, we have so few tools in the future to the cast of life in the world. But also crisis of the semiosphere. We are losing the diastema, that is that's something that divides two events, two objects, two notes, or two images, and so on. And Italian aesthetician Gillo Dorfler speaks about that we are passed in our human history from the horror vacui, in which in the ancient times humans felt the vacui, the emptiness of the world, and so this was the why humans started to depicting, producing images and making music and so on. And nowadays, in which we are in a world of fullness, Dorfler speaks about that he would like that there will be a sort of horror plane, so to have horror of the too much. So the horror of this semiotic overflow, so too much of images, too much of words, too much of sounds. And semiotician Ugo Volli speaks about semiotic inflections. That means that if symbolic forms grows, the quality of these semiotic shapes decrease. So we speak a lot, but finally our words starts to be a little bit empty, and so on. So we are in face of a sort of noise barbarism or incivility of noise. And inside of the symbolic form, we are interested in acoustic forms, and so Anthropocene is also a crisis of the phonosphere. You know, 20th century saw the economic boom. It's a sonic metaphor, and so we can speak about a noise century, and we can speak about a phonosphere overload. And the fact is that the acoustic pollution prevents to correctly communicate with the environment, so it prevents us to perceive and to understand our relationship with the environment, and finally to recognize ourselves. So our identity is the process to build our identity is a process in which we are in the middle between us and the environment, and if pollution prevent us to have a good connection with our environment, also we start to lack also who are ourselves. And so anthropic noise prevent communication and also health of humans and other living beings. So on one hand there is all the phenomena, for example, of the auditory masking, so anthropophonic noise mask other sounds from animals, such as the song of birds or other kind of biophonies. But on the other hand, the strong anthrophonic pollution gives also many behavioral abnormalities, disorientation, and stunning to animal bodies, also human bodies, but also we make a lot of these abnormalities on the living beings in world in general. And the example of cetaceans is one of the most cases. So a very, very noisy Anthropocene, and how to do. So on one hand, the acoustic pollution is one of the measures of perceptive pollution. And on the other hand, we need from the scholars that study sound dimension, we start to have new models. So new models and theoretical tools to develop a new relationship with the environment come from sound studies in the humanities and bioacoustics on the part of natural sciences. And study sounds can help us to overcome dichotomies, natural culture, human, animal, social science, and natural science. We know that listening is a tool of knowledge. In the humanities, in the 70s, there were Jacques Attali that stated that to listen to human music it's very important, because music is a sort of soundtrack of vibration and science which make the society. So we can study society from music. But we can do the same things in the part of natural sciences, and saying that study animal music help us to understand the soundscape, and also the developing of soundscape and the animal worlds and environments. So nowadays we know that sound gives us information about the well-being of an environment and the grade of biodiversity. And sound is also, it's a soft tool. This means that I can study an environment without have a strong approach or infect this environment. So it's very useful also to have a respect of animal and plants and so on. And also listening gives us a reflection about the role of humans in the world ecosystems. So to reflect about our role in the world. And biosemiotic models help us to develop new storytellings. Anthropocene complex challenges ask new and complex knowledges, which have at the same time the scientific rigor, but on the other hand, the interpretive depth of phenomena. So I want another time underline this. We have to go behind the differences between natural science and humanities, and find new complex relationships. The acoustic models offer new tools for storytelling, to communicate to people the scientific data and process, to raise awareness about Anthropocene crisis. This is a very strong point, and we need to find ways to communicate to the spread public scientific data, and arts and music, I think that have can have a good role in this new communication. And for example, the acoustic niche hypothesis by Bernie Krause, it's a good example of a conceptual tool useful to create new storytelling for a widespread public. So I know that you know very well, but we repeat. So it's one of the theoretical pillars of the contemporary ecoacoustics. And this hypothesis was influenced by a concept like soundscape and acoustic ecology. This I can also do a little parenthesis, but I will go on, because also in the development of the bioacoustic as disciplines, in reality we started the first step to have a collection of single acoustic signs. For example, the example of bird calls is the very good one. So bioacoustics starts to collect bird calls, but just one bird calls for a species, to understand how this species is communicated inside this species. So at the first step, we started to have, acoustic libraries of bird calls and so on. But when arrived the concept of soundscape, this changes also how bioacoustic started to work, and so not to record just a single bird calls, but to start to record all the world's soundscape and to study the relationship between different vocalization inside the soundscapes. And so the acoustic hypothesis started there. And so we can say it was a sort of textual tour in biosemantics. I mean that from one side, so the single bird song, we started to consider soundscape as a text, okay, like a book, like a film. So the word soundscape like a text to study inside. Bernie Krause in specific, yes, traveled a lot and is the guy who recorded a lot of different wild soundscape all over the world. Also, the hypothesis, there is a sort of steps that Bernie Krause did during time. So there is a first paper in '87 in which he started to develop this environmental theory of acoustic habitat. He started with the analysis of spectrograms that are, the visual translation of recordings. And so he had different recordings of wild soundscapes. He translated into visuals, and he noticed that there was a relations in time and frequencies of animal vocalization. In specific, a species vocalize in a specific frequency, and not only a specific frequencies, but also in a specific time. So also if you have, I don't know, a bird that sing boo 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 boo. Maybe there is another bird that sing in the pose of the other bird. So there is a sort of yes, this kind of structure also in time. So Bernie Krause started to reflect that every place has a sort of unique acoustic biospectrum, a sort of sound key, we can say in a musical terms, and an habitat that has a specific environmental tonality. And so the study of habitats through the sounds can give important information on health and future of the habitat. The most important paper is from '93, and we have the acoustic niche hypothesis. So the analysis of rainforest spectrograms, but also other habitats that he collected from the very oldest habitat in the world, give an incredible acoustic consistency that is a sort of fingerprint or vocal print of the place. So he underlined this characteristic relationship between animals, not only birds, but big mammals, and yes, birds, insects, and so on. So there is a sort of sounds that cover all the frequencies of the soundscape and of the spectrograms. And in the rainforest, we have a lot of species density in the same place. So we have a strong competition for the acoustic spaces, and so a refined articulation of vocalization, as we said. And, there is a difference between equatorial habitats and the temperate areas like these, or like Italy, and in which, yes, this structure is a little less. We have much more voids in this structure. But so the equatorial habitats is the strongest examples of this structure. So this hypothesis is useful, yes, to study conservation and to study the analysis of biodiversity through sound, to study the impact of anthropic action on habitat through sounds. For example, when you have too much noise, for example, we said before, the acoustic maskings, if there are some species that changes habitats, like communities of birds that migrates and arrive in an area that is very noisy, maybe they found that this noise cover the bird sings, so these things they have to the side of migrants another time, or changes the frequencies of the calls. But also human create also too much silence. It is the case of forests of secondary growth. So Benny Crow studied that when you have a forest that is cutted for wood, and humans had politics to let regrow the forest, finally you don't have the same environmental acoustic we can say fingerprint, because it's much more silent of the first one. So birds already migrated and bye bye. Yeah. Also study this hypothesis is very interesting because make us to rediscover the cultural link with environment, the origin of music, and the example of extra-European societies which have preserved the acoustic knowledge for orientation, for sustenance, is very important to us to reflect on the relationship with environment, such as Javaro or Kaluli, studied by Stefan Feld. It's another very known example. And maybe it's very interesting that Bernie Krause he decided to not use the word nature in this work or in this presentation, and he did this many years before. Anthropologists such as Philippe Descola or other anthropologists that started to do a multinaturalistic critics of European conception of the word. I have to go very very fast because my time is finishing. Yes, I can finish with this. That is the point. The fact is also Bernie Krause used in his works and presentation musical metaphor. So spectrograms are related to the musical sheets, ethnical vocalization are related to violins, viola, cellos, double bass. The structure, the frequency structure of the rainforest tell like there was a sort of an orchestra, a musical orchestra. So while soundscape is related to the orchestra. There are semantic traits that union make the link with the figure of the orchestra and the figure of the wild soundscape. An ensemble of individuals, an ensemble that is organized, an ensemble individual that acts all together to a common aim, and their specific product distinguish this ensemble from another one. And there is a sort of powerful figurative argumentation, a powerful metaphor that we can also amuse us to go on in this metaphor. We can say that the role of human is a sort of an ecocentric soloist because we are started to produce a lot of noise. And finally, this new articulation, if we start to use this metaphor, we find new articulation, humans and non-humans, and anthropophonic sounds, animal sounds, to try to build a new collective. And I finish here, just saying that the musical metaphor is interesting, that is not used today, but if we can go in the past, we found that romantic naturalists such as For example, Jacob von Exul, who was the father of the Umwelt theory, used musical metaphor and musical words to speak about, in this case, environment of animals. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Emiliano, for your contribution. And you propose acoustic niche hypothesis as an approach to read soundscape as text, but there's a lot of undertext. So we have the time for one question, maybe, if you want to ask something. Please. Okay, 2 questions, please.
I answer or
Yeah.
okay. Yes, thank you very much. It's very important. It's another word that we have don't use. Noise. Yes, we know that in sound studies it's very criticized because finally we have to speak only about sounds in general, sounds, because there is a subjective perception of what is sound, what is noise. Usually noise is a sound that disturb me, that infect me, and so on. I use the in a voluntarian way the word of noise because the sounds that human beings started to produce has a very strong effect on human bodies, on animals' bodies, and so on. But it's true, this is the problem, that a lot of humans not consider that sounds like this a sort of noise, but just sounds. I don't know, engineering that are looking for petrol in the soil of the oceans. They produce very powerful sounds. That are sort of booms, to have a sort of echolocalization of where is the good soil for petrol, but they don't consider this sound noise. And this is the problem, that we have to communicate to other humans that in reality we produce a lot of noise and we are destroying, for example, underwater environment. It's crazy. Today it's one of the most affected environment. So thank you, yes.
Thank you. We have time for another question.
Thanks a lot, Emiliano, for your presentation. I have a few comments.
Yeah.
First of all, I'm interested in knowing a bit more about your point on Anthropocene in regards to all the critiques that have been done lately on the anthropocentrism of the understanding of Anthropocene itself. So there's many critics saying that the concept itself of Anthropocene is very anthropocentric, the way it is framed in our culture and society. And that could be a problem because we try to address a very wide problem from our perspective. And if we think about also the way, for example, Krauss is using this hypothesis to think about possible futures, of course he takes into account mostly the range, the acoustic range of the frequencies that a human can actually listen to. And maybe we should also take into account a much wider range of frequencies, of which we just can listen a very small part. So that could be problematic also if you're thinking about a more just ecology or a more open ecology. And just to close, since we are trying also to consider new possible ecologies, new possible forms of
yeah, thank you very much. 'Cause,
There's another.
yeah.
Folk band.
Yeah.
I think you have 2 minutes to answer all these questions.
Yeah.
And to find a solution to the problem. Are you able?
But thank you very much, because I wanted this presentation was the aim was really to raise these questions. So I'm very happy. Thank you very much. So I will try very fast, and we continue in
The coffee break.
Yeah.
So that,
Okay. Okay, I can't read what I wrote, but our perspective, yes. Okay, yes, maybe the concept of Umwelt of one work school can be very useful, because we know that we can hear just some frequencies, but there are animals and plants that they feel another kind of landscape and soundscapes. So yes, this is a problem, and we have to match our perceived soundscape and or landscape and the perceived landscape of the other animal beings. So we are taking consideration this. So yes, I agree. It's we have to have a sort of open ecology, but there is a problem. The fact that we have a sort of special animals. You know, we can speak, we can have thinking, we use hands, and we are a sort of maybe using a sort of also spiritual metaphor. We are also the custodi del giardino, I don't know how to say, the host of the garden. So we are in a role that could be very important, to be the good and to be the less good. But okay, on the other hand, we know that life on the world can do also without us. So we can also maybe not be there anymore, and living beings can go on. But I think that it's important not to lose ourselves also in all the interpretations, and so also in this place of perspectives. And Umberto Eco says that also interpretation, we can put metals in the fusion of the atomic fusions of the interpretation. This means that finally we had to do an interpretation to take choices. So it's okay that insects and don't fill my landscape, but I have any way to reflect of my relationship of landscape and other living beings. Sorry, in English to me it's very difficult to answer this. And okay, hierarchy. Yes, I very agree with you. There is a limit of this metaphor in Maurice Schaeffer, in Bernie Krause, because yes, it's a very ethnocentric musical figure, the classical, but consider the music. So, okay, we can speak about African orchestra, we can speak about electroacoustic improvisation format, but sound and music has a very strong metaphor to speak about soundscape. This, I think that we can take this.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Thank you, and sorry for the rush, and thank you everybody for starting this debate that includes a lot of the themes that we will front in the next days. So we have a few minutes for a short break, and then we go on with the second parallel session of papers. Thank you, and have a good coffee break. Grazie.
No, grazie.